Hello Dub Nation, it's always a thrill to connect with you, especially as we're about to reveal the latest news that could shape the fate of our beloved Golden State Warriors. But before we dive into this whirlwind of information, let me make a friendly request. Show us some love by clicking the like button to strengthen our bond, and hey, if you are not subscribed yet, join our channel for a thrilling and emotional journey. Don't forget to turn on notifications to stay ahead of the game.
Zach Lowe explains why he hates the NBA's new end-of-quarter shot rule, even if it benefits stars like Stephen Curry and Nikola Jokic. The NBA just rolled out a major rule change ahead of the 2025-26 season, and for most fans, it's a win. If you love those wild, last-second heaves at the end of a quarter, the ones that bring crowds to their feet and highlight reels to life, this change is for you. Until now, those desperation shots counted against a player's field goal percentage, which, believe it or not, made many players hesitant to take them. In a league where stats can impact contracts, even a slight dip in shooting percentage could have real consequences. But that's about to change. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has approved a new rule that shifts the stat burden. Now, those end-of-quarter heaves will count toward team field goal percentage, not individual stats. The goal? Encourage players to take more of these fun, low-percentage shots without worrying about their personal numbers. Sounds great, right? Not everyone thinks so, especially NBA analyst Zach Lowe. Zach Lowe hates the rule change. Here's why. On his podcast with The Ringer, Lowe didn't hold back. I hate it. I hate it. We're letting these cowardly players off the hook, the ones who wouldn't take a shot because they were afraid of dropping their field goal percentage by 0.001. Lowe has a point. Many fans have noticed players intentionally avoiding these shots, either dribbling out the clock or tossing the ball just after the buzzer to protect their stats. This change lets them off the hook. Now, they can finally take those shots, and Lowe isn't impressed. Oh, now they'll shoot? Please, he said, dripping with sarcasm. He respects the ones who never cared about stats. Lowe was quick to shout out players who always stepped up, regardless of what it did to their numbers. I loved calling out the ones who dodged the moment. And I loved celebrating guys like Steph Curry, Nikola Jokic, J.R. Smith back in the day, even Peyton Pritchard, guys who said, no way, I'm taking that shot. Even if there's a 2% chance it goes in, I'm going for it. Maybe I get fouled. Maybe it's the play that wins us the game. To Lowe, it's about competitive spirit. About courage. He laments the fact that the league is now removing that layer of accountability. Forget the guys who dribble the clock out or pretend they didn't see it winding down. Like, oops, did I lose track of time? No. I hate that. Boo, NBA. Boo, stat-padding players, he said. Entertainment versus integrity. Can't we have both? While Lowe makes a compelling and passionate argument, the truth is, this rule change is likely to make the game more entertaining. More buzzer beaters. More excitement. More reasons to stay on the edge of your seat until the final second of every quarter. And for fans, that's what it's all about. Even if the purists like Zach Lowe aren't thrilled, this new rule might just unlock more of those unforgettable, no-holds-barred moments, the kind that define the NBA. A rule designed for the highlight reel. From the league's perspective, this change is about encouraging spontaneity and bringing back moments that fans love. The NBA has long wrestled with the tension between statistical precision and pure entertainment. While advanced analytics have become a core part of the modern game, they've also discouraged players from taking risks that don't show up favorably on paper. End-of-quarter heaves were one of the biggest victims of that shift. Instead of launching a shot from half-court as the buzzer sounded, many players would choose to simply hold the ball, not because they didn't want to score, but because the downside of missing outweighed the potential upside. This rule aims to fix that. And the league isn't hiding its intent. They want more shots, more drama, and fewer wasted possessions in the final seconds of each period. But not everyone's convinced. Mixed reactions from around the league. Several players have welcomed the change, calling it a long-overdue correction. One Western Conference guard, speaking anonymously, said, "It's about time. We've all been in situations where you hesitate, not because you don't want to shoot, but because you're thinking about your season numbers. Now we don't have to." Veteran forward Joe Ingles echoed that sentiment, saying in a recent interview, "Guys should have been taking those shots anyway. But if this helps get more of them up, I'm all for it." On the other hand, some traditionalists, like Zach Lowe, believe the rule sets a dangerous precedent. By protecting players from the statistical consequences of low-efficiency shots, the league may be inadvertently encouraging a mindset that values image over accountability. Low isn't alone in that view. Several analysts have raised concerns about how this change fits into a broader trend of stat sanitization, where league rules increasingly shelter players from the natural consequences of competition. A small change with big implications. Though it may seem like a minor tweak, this rule touches on a broader philosophical debate. What should matter more, the purity of the numbers or the spirit of the game? The players who refused to take these shots in the past weren't necessarily wrong. In many cases, contract bonuses, endorsement deals, and even all-star considerations are tied to shooting percentages. When missing a half-court heave could cost you a few decimal points on your field goal stats, and potentially millions of dollars, hesitation was understandable. The NBA's solution is to remove that disincentive altogether. But critics like Lowe argue that the solution doesn't address the real problem, it just redefines it. Instead of telling players to be brave and take the shot regardless of the consequence, Lowe argued, we've just removed the consequence. The Curry and Jokic effect. That's why Lowe was so adamant about players like Stephen Curry and Nikola Jokic. These are two superstars who never let the numbers dictate their instincts. Whether it's Curry pulling up from 40 feet or Jokic launching a one-handed runner as the buzzer sounds, they've always trusted their feel for the game over their stat sheet. To Lowe, the old rule helped separate those who played to win from those who played not to lose. Now with the risk gone, every player is free to launch those shots. But in Lowe's view, the ones who never needed permission are the ones who should be celebrated. What comes next? As with many rule changes in professional sports, the true impact won't be clear until the season is underway. Will players genuinely feel more liberated? Will fans get more of the chaotic, buzzer-beating moments they crave? Or will the change have minimal effect, with players continuing to play it safe out of habit? One thing is certain, the conversation around this rule isn't just about field goal percentage. It's about identity, of players, of teams, and of the league itself. And whether you agree with Zach Lowe or not, he's forced a necessary conversation. What kind of game do we want the NBA to be? Stephen Curry says his dunk last season was his last ever, and he means it. Stephen Curry pulled off something last season that no one really expects from him, and he says you shouldn't expect it again. Known around the world for his record-shattering three-point shooting, Curry has built a legacy that's changed the way basketball is played. His deep range and effortless release have inspired an entire generation of players to stretch the floor like never before. But because of how good he is from beyond the arc, many tend to overlook other parts of his game. Curry is also a crafty passer, an underrated defender with quick hands, and an elite ball handler. Still, there's one skill that almost never enters the conversation when you talk about Steph Curry: dunking. And even though he did throw one down last season, shocking just about everyone in the arena, Curry made it very clear afterward, that was probably the last time you'll ever see it. That's the last one you'll see, Curry tells Fallon. In a recent appearance on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, Curry opened up about the dunk that got fans, and even the opposing crowd, on their feet. It turns out, the rare slam came thanks to a playful challenge from Warriors assistant coach Jerry Stackhouse earlier that day. I'm 6 feet 2 inches, so I should be able to get up there a little bit, Curry told Fallon, laughing. It was in Philly. That morning, Jerry Stackhouse looked at me and said, I've been around all season and haven't seen you dunk once. I was like, well, that's not really what I'm here for. Threes are worth more than twos, right? But that night, when a fast break opened up and no defenders stood in his way, Curry saw the moment, and went for it. It wasn't planned at all. Just pure impulse. It took everything I had. I'm probably still feeling it now. I pointed right at Stackhouse after. He was jumping off the bench, going crazy. Then came the confession. But yeah, that's probably it. That's the last one you'll see from me. The crowd in Philly couldn't help themselves. Curry's unexpected dunk came against the Philadelphia 76ers. A clean fast break jam after a missed offensive possession by Philly. There were no defenders in sight, and Curry took flight. What happened next was even more surprising. The Philadelphia crowd, usually ruthless to visiting stars, actually cheered for him. It was the kind of moment that reminds you how rare and special Curry's dunks really are. It had been 6 years since his last in-game dunk, and fans knew this one was a gift. Most of them have Jerry Stackhouse to thank for planting the seed earlier that day. And now? That dunk stands as a kind of final chapter, at least for that part of his game. Because as much fun as it was to see, Curry has no plans to become a regular at the rim. He'll leave the high-flying theatrics to others and stick to what he does better than anyone in NBA history, raining threes from distances most players wouldn't dare attempt. A rare dunk, a lasting memory. What made Curry's dunk even more memorable wasn't just how rare it was the reaction. Teammates jumped off the bench. The Warriors' coaching staff erupted. And fans in the arena, even those rooting for the home team, couldn't help but appreciate the moment. For a split second, it wasn't just about a two-point basket. It was about a superstar stepping outside his comfort zone, even for a brief flash, and doing something unexpected, something human. And that's part of what makes Stephen Curry so beloved. He's not just great because he dominates. He's great because he surprises you. Whether it's hitting a 35-footer with seconds left or elevating for a dunk no one saw coming, Curry plays with joy, spontaneity, and a deep love for the game. 6 years between slams. Curry's last dunk before that game in Philadelphia had come 6 years earlier, another fast break, another crowd momentarily stunned into silence before bursting into applause. Unlike most NBA stars, Curry never built his game around athletic dominance. He's not known for towering over defenders or playing above the rim. His game has always been about finesse, intelligence, and timing. That's why when he does dunk, it feels like witnessing a solar eclipse, rare, spectacular, and almost surreal. What the dunk really meant. For some players, a dunk is just another bucket. For Curry, this one felt symbolic. At 37 years old with over a decade of wear and tear on his body, his decision to try, and successfully land, a dunk wasn't just a physical achievement. It was a moment of pride, competitiveness, and humor. He didn't do it to prove anything to critics. He didn't do it for a highlight reel. He did it because someone challenged him, and because even now in the later stages of his career, Steph Curry is still driven by the same instincts that made him great, rising to the moment, no matter how small. It took everything I had, he admitted. And that one sentence probably says more than the dunk itself ever could. Reactions around the league. After the clip went viral, reactions poured in. Former players, current teammates, and analysts alike weighed in. Some shocked, some amused, all impressed. Draymond Green joked in a post-game interview, "We might have to get that man in the dunk contest." Klay Thompson couldn't stop laughing during the post-game presser, saying, "He acted like he just hit a game winner, and honestly for him, that might be more rare than a buzzer beater." Even players from other teams chimed in online, praising the moment and joking about how long it might be before we see another one. But behind all the fun was a sense of respect, not just for the dunk, but for Curry's willingness to step out of his usual rhythm and give fans something they didn't know they needed. The legacy behind the laughter. As Curry's career continues to evolve, moments like this serve as subtle reminders of the bigger picture. He's not just padding stats or chasing records, he's living each chapter of his basketball journey fully. Whether it's publishing a book, mentoring younger players, or throwing down a dunk for the first time in years, Curry remains connected to the joy of the game. And maybe that's why fans everywhere felt something when he said, "That's probably the last one." Not because they expect him to become a dunker, but because they know how much that moment meant to him. It wasn't about athleticism. It was about heart. And even if it was the last time we see Steph Curry dunk in an NBA game, it was a fitting reminder that greatness isn't always about doing the expected. Sometimes, it's about doing the impossible, even just once. Jonathan Kuminga's contract uncertainty leaves Warriors veterans wondering what comes next. With training camp fast approaching and the Eurobasket 2025 winding down, NBA teams are shifting focus toward the new season. Players across the league have spent their off-seasons traveling, training, or in some cases, navigating headlines, like Kawhi Leonard amid his ongoing investigation. In Golden State, one name continues to dominate the conversation: Jonathan Kuminga. The 22-year-old forward remains unsigned, and his unresolved contract situation is starting to raise eyebrows, not just among fans, but within the Warriors' own locker room. According to ESPN's Anthony Slater, even the team's veteran core is beginning to question how Kuminga's future will impact the rest of the roster. They're not in the dark, but they're wondering. Appearing on NBA Today, Slater shared that Golden State's veterans have already had discussions with GM Mike Dunleavy Jr. about the structure of the upcoming roster. Still, one major piece remains unclear: Kuminga. They've spoken to Mike Dunleavy. They know how the roster is shaping up and what dominoes need to fall. They're not in the dark, Slater said. But they are asking questions, especially about what happens if Kuminga ends up accepting his qualifying offer. Can he come back and be fully bought in, with no personal agenda? That lingering uncertainty has become a quiet tension in Golden State. And with restricted free agents like Josh Giddey recently securing massive extensions, Giddey signed a 4-year, $100 million deal with the Bulls. The spotlight on Kuminga's situation has only intensified. A complicated off-season for Kuminga. Things haven't been smooth between Kuminga and the Warriors since the end of last season. His benching during a key stretch against the Clippers left a bitter aftertaste, with many assuming his time in the Bay was nearing its end. But then came the playoffs. Injuries to Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler opened a window of opportunity, and Kuminga stepped through it. His performance, especially in the series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, reminded everyone why he's considered one of the league's most intriguing young talents. Explosive, confident, and efficient, Kuminga looked like a player ready to take the next step. That showing gave the Warriors a reason to believe in a possible future with him. But belief alone hasn't been enough to finalize a deal. Is a resolution close, or still far off? Kuminga's name has been floated in trade talks with teams like the Phoenix Suns and Sacramento Kings, but for now, those rumors have gone quiet. The real question now isn't who wants him, it's what kind of commitment he's willing to make. Will he sign the qualifying offer and become an unrestricted free agent next summer? Or will he work out a long-term deal with the Warriors now? Sources say Golden State offered a 2-year, $45 million deal, but that might not be enough to seal the agreement. Meanwhile, Giddey's deal has reportedly sparked renewed efforts from the Warriors front office to find common ground with Kuminga. A new agreement could come as early as next week, which would give Golden State a chance to round out the rest of its roster before training camp begins. More than just a contract. For the Warriors, Kuminga's situation is more than a matter of money. It's about trust, chemistry, and direction. After a roller coaster season that ended earlier than expected, Golden State is looking to retool around its aging core while still holding onto its most promising young assets. Kuminga sits right at the center of that plan, or perhaps at the crossroads of it. The veterans have made it clear, they're ready to run it back. They've seen what Kuminga can do when fully engaged. But they also want clarity, and a teammate who's fully committed. Now, with training camp just around the corner, the ball is in Kuminga's court. Will he return with full buy-in, or will his next move signal a different path forward? Either way, the Warriors don't have time to wait much longer. Inside the locker room, patience or pressure? Behind closed doors, there's a sense that the Warriors' veterans, players who've been through championship runs and rebuilding years, are growing restless. Not necessarily with Kuminga himself, but with the ambiguity. The team is entering a crucial phase. Aging stars like Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson are still capable of competing at a high level, but the window is narrowing. Every season now carries extra weight. That's why the uncertainty around Kuminga's role, and his mindset, is starting to concern some in the organization. While there's still respect for Kuminga's potential, there's also a question hovering in the background. Is he fully aligned with the team's timeline? One team source reportedly told The Athletic that everyone wants this to work, but also noted that the Warriors can't afford another year of hesitation. The message is clear: if Kuminga is staying, he needs to commit, mentally and emotionally, not just contractually. Strategic ramifications. Beyond Kuminga. The longer the situation drags on, the more it impacts Golden State's ability to plan for the season. Without clarity on Kuminga's cap hit, the front office is limited in what it can do with remaining roster spots. Veteran free agents who might have been useful additions, particularly on the wing, are still available, but Golden State can't move on them without knowing what Kuminga's contract will look like. And then there's the trade market. While the Warriors have explored deals in the past involving Kuminga, league sources now say any potential trade talks have completely stalled until his contract status is finalized. If Kuminga were to accept the qualifying offer, he'd be on a 1-year deal, which severely limits his trade value during the season. Teams generally hesitate to trade meaningful assets for a player they might lose for nothing in free agency the following summer. The bigger picture: what does Kuminga want? This isn't just a front office dilemma. It's a reflection of a larger identity question for Kuminga himself. Does he see himself as a foundational piece in Golden State, the next face of the franchise once the dynasty era fades? Or does he envision his career thriving elsewhere, on a younger roster with more immediate opportunities to be the guy? His playoff performances suggest he's capable of being much more than a role player. But within the Warriors system, which is built around movement, spacing, and veteran decision-making, his growth depends on patience, discipline, and trust. Those are qualities he's still developing. And the Warriors know it. But at 22, Kuminga still has time, if he chooses to stay on that path. External reactions, league-wide attention. Across the league, executives are monitoring the situation closely. Multiple teams reportedly view Kuminga as a high-upside swing, particularly those in the middle of a rebuild. Sacramento and Orlando have shown interest in the past, and even teams like Toronto and Charlotte have inquired, believing Kuminga could flourish in a system more tailored to his skill set. But at the same time, few teams are willing to overpay for potential that remains, for now, inconsistent. That's why many around the NBA see Kuminga's next decision, whether to sign a long-term deal, accept the qualifying offer, or push for a trade, as one that could shape not only his future, but the Warriors' direction for the next several seasons. What comes next? The coming days are critical. Sources suggest that if no agreement is reached by the start of training camp, Golden State may seriously consider alternative options, including moving off Kuminga entirely, even if it means getting less than his full value. But for now, the door remains open. The Warriors haven't given up on Jonathan Kuminga. Far from it. In fact, they've made it clear they want him to be part of their future. The ball, quite literally and figuratively, is in his hands. And as Golden State prepares to launch another season, one that could either signal the beginning of a new era or the end of a legendary one, what Kuminga decides in the next few weeks may define far more than just a contract. It may define the next chapter of the Warriors' legacy. Knicks just made a move that could clear the way for Warriors to land Malcolm Brogdon. The Golden State Warriors might have one less obstacle standing in their way to sign veteran guard Malcolm Brogdon this free agency, thanks to the New York Knicks' recent addition of Landry Shamet. While nothing is set in stone yet, this move could open the door wider for the Warriors to make a play for Brogdon. According to ESPN's Shams Charania, the Knicks finalized the Shamet signing on Thursday, a decision that seemingly narrows their focus and leaves Brogdon more available for Golden State. Warriors now have a clearer path to signing Brogdon. Ian Begley from SNY, a reliable Knicks insider, noted in recent days that both Shamet and Brogdon were on New York's radar. But with Shamet now in, it looks like the Knicks are moving in a different direction, even though they still need a backup point guard to complement 24-year-old Tyler Kolek. For the Warriors, bringing in a reliable veteran backup for franchise star Stephen Curry has become a priority. After Curry suffered a thigh injury during the second-round playoff series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Golden State struggled to maintain offensive rhythm without their two-time MVP on the court. Curry has been a workhorse, playing at least 70 regular season games in each of the last 2 seasons, a feat he hadn't managed in the 6 seasons prior. At 37 and entering his 17th NBA season, managing his workload and physical toll will be a crucial conversation throughout the upcoming year. Enter Malcolm Brogdon. That's where Brogdon's experience becomes invaluable. As a seasoned guard who won the NBA's 6th Man of the Year award with the Boston Celtics just 2 years ago, he's proven he can bring stability and leadership off the bench. Although injuries slowed him down the past 2 seasons, his talent and veteran savvy remain undeniable. With the Knicks opting for Shamet, Golden State's biggest remaining competition for Brogdon could be the Timberwolves, who have also been linked to the former Rookie of the Year. What's next for the Warriors and Brogdon? NBA insider Jake Fisher shared on the Stein line late last month that the Warriors' interest in Brogdon wouldn't be crystal clear until the team's roster situation and luxury tax concerns are resolved, particularly regarding restricted free agent Jonathan Kuminga. We won't know if the Warriors are serious about Brogdon until the state of their roster and luxury tax situation become clear after Kuminga's future is decided, Fisher explained. The Warriors might ultimately face a tough choice between Brogdon and Seth Curry, depending on how they finalize their roster, especially since 3 of their current spots appear to be reserved for Al Horford, DeAnthony Melton, and re-signed Gary Payton II. As the Warriors navigate their roster decisions, the broader implications of landing Malcolm Brogdon could be significant. Beyond simply filling a backup point guard role, Brogdon's presence would add a steadying influence on a team balancing the dominance of Stephen Curry with the youthful energy of emerging talents like Kuminga. With Brogdon's defensive prowess and playmaking ability, Golden State could address some of the concerns that surfaced during last season's playoffs, namely, the struggle to maintain offensive consistency when Curry was sidelined. His ability to run the offense and contribute on both ends of the floor would provide the Warriors with more tactical flexibility, especially during high-stakes games. Repercussions across the league. The ripple effects of this potential signing extend beyond Golden State. If the Warriors secure Brogdon, it could spark a domino effect in the Western Conference, pushing teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have also expressed interest, to pivot their plans. The Wolves, already competitive, might need to explore alternative veteran acquisitions or double down on developing younger guards to fill their depth chart. Meanwhile, New York's decision to sign Shamet signals a more conservative or long-term developmental approach, which might disappoint fans hoping for a more aggressive push in free agency. The Knicks still have significant needs at guard and on the wings, and passing on Brogdon could cost them valuable veteran leadership and playoff experience, especially with their championship aspirations growing louder. Financial and strategic considerations. Golden State's front office will also have to weigh luxury tax implications carefully. With multiple key contracts on the books, the addition of Brogdon, though impactful, could strain their payroll flexibility. This balancing act will test the Warriors' management's ability to build a championship-contending roster while staying financially prudent. This off-season marks a critical juncture for the Warriors. Decisions made now, especially regarding role players like Brogdon, could define their window of opportunity with Curry still at the helm. The organization's capacity to attract and retain complementary talent will influence whether they can contend for another title or face a period of transition. Fan and analyst reactions. Fans and analysts alike are watching closely. Many view Brogdon as the missing piece to solidify Golden State's bench depth. Social media buzz highlights a mix of optimism and caution. Fans hope for a smooth integration but are mindful of the challenges of balancing minutes among talented guards. Analysts predict that if the Warriors can lock down Brogdon, their chances of returning to finals contention increase dramatically. Conversely, missing out on him could leave them vulnerable to deeper, more balanced Western Conference foes.